Yeah, we're talking today to Adrian Barraclough from Quickslide. 20 years, is it,
Yeah,
since you
20
started?
years, I'm told. It seems like 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, Quickslide's a name that everybody knows, but I mean, how did you actually start?
Well, it begun. I mean, 20 years ago, I was the head of a door business, a big industrial door business, and as an employee, but I ran it pretty much Europe wide, and I left that because I didn't agree with some of the morals that the group were doing, and just became a bit of a consultant. Uh, and and Quickslide brought me in to. It was a fledgling little business that was due to close down, and I said, I think we can make something of this. So so effectively, uh, I took it on, raised some cash, bought it, took it on. It was doing about million and a half a year turnover, just with a few sash windows that were a bit of a not of the best quality. And we started building the team. So that's when this all begun. And from then on we built the team, developed the products, developed the systems, developed the processes, and steadily grew to where we are now, Chris.
Well, let's talk about those products. I mean, particularly things like the Slimline Legacy
Mm.
vertical slider and your aluminium products. I mean, for windows, you pretty much cover all the bases, don't you?
Yeah, we do now. So um, the specialism always was, and probably always will be, is the sliding sash window, the heritage style that you see from yesteryear. That previously there were some stunning properties that had to have timber sash windows removed and the casements, pushed out casements installed, and it just didn't look right. So we really tried to push the market into having the sliding sash as in PVC as a very ecological, um, not substitute, but a long-term solution for those gorgeous properties. Um, since we've been doing that, a lot of our clients quite enjoy the fact that we supply a well-priced product and a decent quality on time, in full, everything else, and have asked us to extend our range. So it's not really been a deliberate ploy by us to extend our range. It's more the market demand. So if we've got clients that come to us and say, look, we'd like you to consider making aluminium products, we then start to explore what should we do in that sector, and we roll out the products. The thing with casement windows. It's not our specialism, but it's something that we supply into the market. And I suppose we're getting a bit more expert at these other areas as well now.
What's the sort of percentage then between PVCU and aluminium for you now?
Um, well, aluminium's probably up to 20-25%
Is it?
of what we're
Wow.
doing. It's increasing all the time, and it's a product that the market are getting really starting to get really excited by. So it's interesting to see how that all shapes. I think the aluminium market. I think the slimline makes it attractive, and it's good for the industry to have options, isn't it? Because when you're selling to market, if a window retailer has got all the options, you've got timber, PVC, aluminium in flush, and you really the consumer can go there and just select what they want and not be driven towards one particular product.
I mean, but from a fabricator point of view, it's much easier, isn't it, to get into aluminium than it is PVCU? I mean, the tooling's much cheaper. Anybody can almost start up in their garage, can't they, making aluminium windows?
Yeah, you'd argue that yeah, PVC they could as well with a little bit of labour, but aluminium especially, that they're not. they're not as complex to fabricate. There's not as many systems. I mean, so yes, they're an easier product, but their tolerances are also a lot less. So you've got to be very accurate with aluminium, and the wastage is high, which is a shame because it's an expensive material.
So in price wise, I mean, what is it? Twice PVCU or not as much as that now?
As a rule of thumb, it'll be getting towards twice, not quite twice. As a rule of thumb, you could probably consider that, but it depends on sizes and specifications and glass types and yeah, different options, Chris.
I mean, do you reckon then that it's better from an environmental point of view? Can you recycle more aluminium than you can PVCU?
I don't think there's a lot in it. I mean, they're both extremely sustainable products. The PVCU, I mean, I think the word is it can be recycled about 7 or 8 times through its lifetime. Yeah. And you know, our products that we put in will certainly last our lifetime. So that plastic is environmental enough, because I'm sure by the time the 7 times rotation has been exhausted, there'll be something else that will be such as pultrusion, which isn't going to be too far away. That will supplement. So I think they're both profoundly good on the environmental side. That once they're in, apart from changing designs, they're going to be pretty much good for life.
How involved do you get then in the recycling, in helping your customers on the recycling side?
Well, we just encourage it a lot. We don't ourselves do a lot of recycling, but we work with recycling companies, so that because we supply to the retailer will often, when they take PVC windows out, they will then recycle. And also the extrusion companies that we're working with have got very good environmental policies, and they're stepping up more and more recycled products in the new products that we're getting going forward. So as an industry, we're becoming, you know, very, very, very much sharper on the environmental side. And I think they're looking at 30 or 40% of products within a year or two are going to be from recycled products. And if you foil it, then obviously you don't lose any issues with the virgin plastic either. So that can be a real good point.
Can we just go back a bit? We were talking about the conservation side with sliders and things. I mean, how did you manage to get all these environmental groups and things and conservation groups to actually accept PVCU in a slider? Because I mean, that was going back some years. It was quite a fight, wasn't it?
Well, you've got to convince the eco warriors and the environmental people that it's a better product. And I'm a trained cabinet maker, joiner, so I enjoy working with timber, and I would always argue that timber was a better product because it's a natural product. So why not use a natural product? But then when you look at cutting down the trees that produce oxygen in order to have a building product that's then going to move, it doesn't make any sense. So you've got to work with the conservation people and get them involved in the designs, which we did do extensively. And providing you can produce a product that is aesthetically as good, but performance-wise far superior. So it's superior on the fact of its longevity, on its aesthetics, on the security, and on the insulation. Then really you're not working against the environmental people, but you're working with the environmental people. Yeah. And you're saying to them, we've got a product here that every time we take out a timber window and put this in, we're doing the environment a favor. You know, you don't have to repaint it. Yeah. I mean, timber windows, how often do you have to keep repainting them and using all these materials year on year that are, again, not doing any good for the atmosphere? So once you convince people and design things sympathetically, I think they're very much on your side, and they quite encourage what you're doing. So that's where we put lots of our effort.
So do you have to support your installers and go around the country talking to different environmental groups or conservation places? I mean, if you covering the whole country, presumably each one has their own areas and disciplines, and they make their own decisions as to whether they will accept PVCU sliders in conservation areas.
It's very much up to our clients to do that in their region, but we give them the tools. So we produce a product that will get accepted in certain areas, and then it's their task, on a job by job basis to get something passed. And once it's been passed on one project, then obviously you've set a precedent in that borough to get it used in other areas. So it's too difficult a task for us to go around every borough. But we work with a certain retailer. He's trying to get the windows passed. We'll just say, well, here's the designs. Take him a sample window, let him look at what he does, and let's put an argument forward for why it should be, of why it's a better solution than the alternative.
Are you using double or triple glazing?
Double glazed.
What's your view there on the triple glazing question?
Well, my personal considered view is that it's very seldom worth the effort to go for triple glazed compared to double glazed. It's one of these situations where the benefit from single to double is dramatic. The next benefit to go to triple is less. It's just not the same level of step that you get with the double. And for the effort involved and for the extra costs, because it isn't just the cost of another piece of glass. You've also got to strengthen the whole window. You've got to strengthen the locks. You've then got manual handling regulations. You've got a lot of lifting to do. Everything changes for this extra benefit. I mean, the cost of producing the glass itself is a dramatic cost. If people look at what benefit do they get from the energy saving of having that extra pane of glass, but the cost of producing that glass in environmental terms and the natural energy needed is dramatic. I don't know the numbers, but I think it's not something that we promote that heavily, because in most properties, a well insulated double glazed window with warm edge spacer bar and inert gas is so wonderfully good. Then do you really need to make that? Would you actually notice that extra bit of difference? I think that's the measurement you get for the extra effort. So in my view, I don't really think it's worth the extra cost, effort, and disorder. But I mean, in some buildings, I'm sure that might prove valuable. But as a mainstream for the retail market, I don't really think so, Chris.
Fair enough. Every time I've been
because another little point on that, as soon as you put all this triple glazed in, they tell you got to cut a great big hole in it and have a trickle vent.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, if they're trying to get something intrinsically safe, then let's look at the simple measures first. And it looks like you're going to massive cost to get an incredible U value with triple glazed and inert gas and everything else, and then you cut a hole straight above it that no one ever uses. So it just doesn't make any sense if they want to get it. So anyway, that's my perspective on triple glazed.
Fair enough. Every time I've been down to Quickslide, you always seem to have been invested in more machinery. I remember coming down, was it last year? Was it the Sherma came in?
Yeah.
I mean, are you keeping on investing in kit? And what does that do? I mean, does that mean that you need less people in the factory?
No, absolutely not. Totally to the contrary. since we've invested in more machinery, we've employed quite a few more people. In fact, I think our staffing is up 10% year on year. What it does is give you repeatable quality. And what the industry talks a lot about windows and the quality of windows and how they look and everything else. But what we supply business to business, and what our retailers need is a product delivered on time, every time, to exactly the spec that they wanted. When you involve complex machinery and systems, you are more assured that that's going to happen than not. And our new machining center is machining to 0.2 of a millimeter. It also optimizes very well, and we've got and it effectively allows us to redeploy the fabricators into other areas. So it's certainly not the case that we're trying to reduce fabricators. We're trying to just increase the efficiency. We can also manufacture more windows from the same footprint, so we don't have to move factories, which we don't want to do because we quite enjoy the community that we're in and we support the community. So if modern technology allows us to get 20% more products out of the market on the same footprint that are a better quality, it also means that we can pass on those savings to the market, and we can also make a bit more cash that we can invest in more machinery going forward and raising the bar.
And have you got more investment coming in now?
Yeah, I think in the next, here we are, November the 26th. By the end of January, we're taking delivery of another £1.2 million machine, the first of its kind in Europe, that we've designed with British engineers and Germans and software companies, that again will take us to another level in the manufacturing process. And that's been on the drawing board now for maybe 3 years since we first came up with the concept. So we do invest long term, and that'll be another expensive investment. But you've got to have the courage to invest in tomorrow. This is a big problem with too many companies in the industry, especially with our political unrest and the government changing the tack. We've always stayed quite focused on investing lots in the business going forward, not taking it out of the business and just keeping it in there and investing in technology, in people, in R&D, in equipment, and everything that makes the business run well.
I mean, you've touched on it there, and you've been quite vocal in LinkedIn and things about Rachel Reeves and her vandals. I mean, how's that going to affect everybody? I mean, we're all getting pummeled, aren't we, now with taxation, and that's got to affect you as a manufacturer more than most. How are you going to cope with that?
It's we always like to complain. Everyone in life complains about this and complains about, but sometimes you've got just reason. And when and this country is pretty much supported. Everything in the country is supported by the private businesses. That's where it all sort of comes from. And the cash comes from that to support the NHS, to support the policing, the security, the military, all the emergency services, and the stability of our country. So it's just disappointing that when companies like ours have been trading 20 years, paid tax every year, never missed a payment, employ people, support the community, are told what to do by the government. You will pay your starting wages of these people that much money. You will give them these holidays. You will pay us this much tax. That uncertainty is very discouraging for businesses. And I think the manufacturing industry in particular, something that Britain should be proud of, it does need to start to lobby government, because it doesn't need many of us to start to get just a bit disillusioned and say, what's in it for us? And that's a philosophy I look at. I think, well, who do you do it for? Do you do this? Do you do this for your staff? Do you do it for your customers? Do you do it for your suppliers? Do you do it for the country? It's for business leaders, they've really got to think, they've got to try and get them on the side, and we'll work hard and we'll perform, but we need to work with the government and not against the government. And it sometimes feels that they're working against us. And a little more involvement would probably do a lot of good, because there's quite a lot of companies our size that the government really needs to get on their side.
Yeah, I totally agree. Whether that can happen or not is anybody's guess.
Mm.
Back to Quickslide itself.
Yes.
Are you doing your own foiling?
No, we used to do. I've learned something, Chris. I'm always learning something, but there's such a space for specialists in this industry, and over time, I think there's too many people that do one particular process try to then expand into other processes and think it's something they can do. We work in a very specific sector. We buy goods in, we add machinery, labour, and administrational talent, and we supply to a retailer. So we don't supply the end user. We trust our retailers to do that job because they can do it better than we can. We trust our suppliers to extrude profile, to make glass, to source hardware better than we can do. And I've started to learn that works pretty well. So when we did our own foiling, as much as I liked control of it, we've now got partner companies that specialize in foiling that do it better than we did. And we've also got the same with the colouring companies. We used to paint, but we realised we never could paint as well as the likes of Colour Seal can paint, because that's all they do. And we think we can do it better, but we can't do it better. And we need to keep these other businesses in the industry. The same thing with sourcing products, same thing with glass, with our own glass factory. We realise we can be far more efficient finding a good glass partner to manufacture big volumes of glass, and work with them on getting the quality to where it needs it to be, and use that space and talent we've got internally to do what we're good at doing, which is manufacturing and fabricating windows. So it's been a good lesson learned that. And as soon as we've been farming out these areas that we used to do ourselves, we used to do our own arches as well. Yeah. But you realise that now we've pretty much all these areas we've now gone out to subcontractors to, and the performance has been superb, and it's allowed us to grow in what we're good at doing.
So the message is use the specialists.
Without a question, use the specialists, and they're invaluable. We always think they're there when we want them, and that's an issue. But it's our duty to actually keep them trading and keep them doing well, and not try to take their job off them. And that's a problem. Once we get to a certain amount that we do in a certain area, our accountants might say, well, do it yourself. Well, why don't you retail yourself? Why don't you sell it to the end user? Because your clients are making a margin. It's because they're good at doing that. Yeah, that's what they do. So let them do it. And however many companies have tried to go direct to market, just fall over. Let the retailers do that, and let the extruders at the front end do that, and let the fabricators do that, and we're all fine. Yeah, that's my philosophy.
Good philosophy. You touched on it earlier. I mean, Quickslide's got a reputation for being a caring company, and I don't just mean from the staff point of view, but from charitable works. You work very closely in the town, don't you?
Yeah.
It's more so than I think I've come across any other company. I mean, what's driven that?
Well, we're blessed. We're blessed, Chris. I'm from a working class family. I love that. I love the way that people are in life and try to get somewhere. And we've been lucky to have some really good clients and suppliers and staff. And I feel that businesses have got a duty. This is where I struggle a bit with the government as well. We've got a duty to our suppliers to make our suppliers better. Not to jump suppliers and say, I can get these locks from somewhere cheaper, I can get the glass cheaper, but to work with our providers to improve their systems and processes. The same thing with our clients. We need to challenge our retail clients to become better than they currently think they can be. So not to say to them, please buy our windows, but we like to go to them and say, we believe you can supply more of these products into your area and your area needs it. And we'll try and give you some tools towards helping you do that. And the same thing with with the staff that we're privileged that they've given us their vocation. So everyone that comes to work for Quickslide is an absolute privilege. You know, they get one chance effectively to work for a company, and they choose us, and we've got a duty to help take them to a level they couldn't attain without us. And I think that philosophy sort of really works through. It means we don't have a lot of change around the staff. We get people that have attained wonderful things and continue to do so using the company as a platform. Our suppliers, we're like the PT that you hate at the time, but you go away after a good session and thinking, yeah, that was worth doing. So we can really hurt our suppliers, and we can push them and say, you need to invest more in R&D. You need to develop better. You know, people are catching you up. What are you doing going forwards that we're going to have? And the same thing with our retail clients. You know, we'll see a company on the south coast, and we're saying, you're buying 20 windows a year off us, but I've got another company in another town similar size that's buying 350. You need to step your game up, because you're missing out opportunities. And to that effect, you know, we invest. People talk about developing products and, oh, that's a great window and that all looks good and everything else. We did our road shows recently. I don't know if you came to one. We did 6 around the country, really, really well received. And again, a great initiative from our marketing department. And after I'd done the little intro into the business and the industry, we then had 8 little centres set up around the room. Only 2 of those were about products. So 75% of our innovation was not about products at all. It was about online marketing support. It was about online pricing. It was about after sales care. It was about all sorts of different elements to the business that our clients need. So, you know, we've got a client that wants to develop the window sales. We don't want to knock on the door saying, can you buy some more windows, please? We want to say, we've introduced some tools that's really going to help you supply more windows in your area. And these are the initiatives that we think the industry was lacking. And our trade partner companies have adopted those, and the ones that have embraced them have really gone on to new levels. So it's not about the product, it's about the support you give your client in helping them in areas that maybe they just need a little bit of encouragement, saying you can get that extra 2 or 3 reps out. And that's what we like to work with, companies that like to be challenged.
Yeah. So basically you're supporting your customers, your suppliers, your staff, your local area.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're being quite a good guy, really, aren't you?
Oh, well, that's not for me to decide. That's not for me to decide, is it? No, I think if you get the philosophy right in these areas, then you become comfortable. And I've got a duty. I've got a duty to all the staff here to pay the wages every week or every month. I've got a duty to the community, and I've got a duty to our suppliers to keep being a customer that pays the wages, pays the materials. And I've got a duty to the retailer to keep providing them products and services that allows them to trade. But really, they all do that themselves. I just sort of sit here and put the plan together. You know, everyone does that. And as long as they do it fairly, and we all pay our bills, and we we all have a good time, you know.
Yeah.
And you look at absenteeism level in the company is profoundly low, and that's because and if you compare it to public sector compared to Quickslide, I
Mm.
mean, public sector, it's probably a factor of 10 or 20 more in the public sector, because people in general enjoy the challenge of coming here and challenging themselves on becoming a better and better person. And
Yeah.
it's a philosophy that I think sort of works through, and that's why it makes it enjoyable. So it never really is work.
So what about aspirations for the future? I mean, you've been every award ceremony that you seem to be up there. You've won Fabricator of the Year. Uh, where do you go from here, and how do you keep motivating yourself and the company generally? And where do you see you going 2025 and on beyond that?
I think I think I'm pretty much out of this now. It's not me driving anymore. The company drives itself. So the processes we put into place, the energy we've got from the heads of the departments, and the clients drives the company on. So if we've got clients that want more products, then we've got to make more products, and the company just gets bigger. Um, the same thing is with the staff here. The company doesn't need to grow, but it does grow because the the people in it and the market demand is something that is evolving, and it can really, I believe, a company should become a natural size that it wants to be. It doesn't need to stretch. There's too many times that companies try to outperform themselves by 10 or 20% and stretch the budget, and always trying to steal a few clients here and there, stretch people, push people a bit too far, and things end up cracking and fatiguing. You get clients that you shouldn't really get, relationships that are wrong. You're forever in disciplinaries of non-performance. Just let the company be the size it's comfortable at being. We always work to about 10 or 20% under capacity. These companies that can manufacture 1,000 windows a week at capacity, but take orders for 1,050 to try to stretch them in and get the 50 made on overtime, and then a machine starts to fatigue because it's not been serviced well enough because it's been stretched, and then a van breaks down, and then they're late, and then the next week they're going to make an extra 100 windows on top of the capacity. Then they're working overtime, and things are stretched. We always like to work within ourselves, because every client we've ever had has needed a window tomorrow, and touch wood, on nearly every occasion we manage to do that because we know there's a need to supply, and we know the requirement is of that level. So we always give ourselves some breathing space. If you look at, you've been to our site a few times, we've always got one or two spare trucks and vans.
Mm.
And because that means that if we ever need to get some windows out quickly to somebody, we've got somewhere to do it. We've always got a few extra people. We've got pretty much a whole backup facility that if our new singing dancing machine fails, we can drop onto another machine, and we might be a little bit behind, but not far. We've got backup plans pretty much all the way through, because that need, when I first got to the industry, it just seemed to be a thing. Sorry, mate, your windows are late, machine broke down, truck broke down, this guy didn't check it. Just pathetic excuses all the time. So we started to put some backups in place, that if that happens, what would we do? And it means that pretty seamlessly, things happen going forward. And it's the same thing with investing in the new machine. We invest in the new machines. We almost always retain the old machines as well. And we keep them in a commission state. So in the event that the new machine does fail, we don't have we aren't excuses. Aren't excuses just the worst thing? Just in life, we just don't want excuses, do we? I went to the gym yesterday morning, and there was a sign on saying, Sorry, due to circumstances outside our control, the showers aren't working. Now, nearly everyone that goes to a gym in the morning then goes on to work and needs a shower. And I'm thinking, it's totally within your control. Whatever it is, it will be in your control. You also manage to text me every week telling me what classes they're on. So why couldn't you text me to tell me that the showers work? Why couldn't you? There are things you could do.
Yeah.
And you look at that point. So nearly everyone sort of went to the gym and then just went off home again because there's no point having to work out and not using a shower. Usually the gym's on the way to work, which might be 10 miles from where they live. A real inconvenience happened from something very simple. So we like to look at that and think,
Yeah.
you know, people rely us. Wibbly wobbly windows on the West Coast rely on us to supply them 8 sliding sash windows in a lovely anthracite grey colour, delivered on Tuesday morning so their installers can turn up there and install them. That's what they rely on. How that's achieved is my job, but it's not for me to give them excuses on why it hasn't happened, because the inconvenience that knocks on can be huge.
Yeah.
So,
Adrian, wise words, and it's always a delight to talk to you. You've always got something to say, and we appreciate it. And thanks very much for your time. Adrian Barraclough from Quickslide Windows.
okay, thanks, Chris. Take care.
Bye now.